I'm Alan Cornell. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here and to the ribbon cutting of Riverside Star Suites project. In 1985, Riverside signed its first contract with the Actors Union in New York, Actors Equity. Part of that agreement was we would provide adequate housing for all the guest artists who came to Riverside to rehearse and perform on our stage. At that time, we had no housing. We didn't have the money to rent apartments, and what we did was we asked people who were friends of the theater if we could have performers stay in their homes for the time they were here. Now, there weren't quite as many people, of course, back in the early 80s coming to our stages as we have today, when we have well over 140-some people we have to accommodate. But it had always been a dream of mine that we would have a permanent home for our actors. And through the years, it's become more problematic finding adequate places to put our very large casts. So when I became CEO of the theater, when you came into the admin, I saw this slogan that I didn't make up, but I loved it. It said, "The theater is no place for small dreams." And this was no small dream. And I can tell you that from the bottom of my heart, this is an amazing accomplishment. So I'm here just to welcome you all and to thank you all for making this dream come true. And I'm going to pass the microphone along so we're not standing out here forever in the heat to John Moses, our managing director. John, where are you?
In terms of sharing, briefly the Star Suites dream and how we went from a housing project to a hotel called Star Suites, I decided I would tell the story in terms of the people, because the people that were involved in fine-tuning this really made the difference. And just the other week at the Chamber after-hours party, I was reminiscing with Amy Shelby, because back in 2011, we walked into I think it was 2 years old, the Spring Hill Suites, and we were inquiring about rooms, and we literally, we sat down in the lobby, and Amy said, "So how many rooms are you thinking?" And I pulled out this spreadsheet of 4 months that represented about 5,000 room nights, and Amy's mouth dropped. Never did she think it was that many in terms of when we knocked on her door. But that really kind of began the beginning of that idea, because for the few years that we were there, they took such great care of them. And we realized at the theater that so much of the headache and work started to disappear for the actors that were at a hotel with another staff. In 2013, another individual entered the picture, Keith Kite. I think it was shortly after we each received something at the Laurel Awards. And Keith, had been presented as this idea guy, this guy that thought outside of the box. And I knew right away, okay, we got to get Keith on board with this project. And so Keith and I drove around quite a bit, and we looked at many different possibilities, properties, apartments, with hotel in there somewhere, but not quite sure how that would work. But we stayed at it. And shortly after that, the next person, and I haven't seen her yet, but Patty Rooney, who was our chief financial officer at the time, she must have been the first person that I walked in and said, "I think," oh, and there she is. What an introduction. That couldn't have been better timing. And I think she was the first person that I walked in, and after talking with Keith, and I said, "I think we need to build an actual hotel." And so Patty and I continued the dream, and Keith, and then at that point, the other person, probably the most influential and meaningful, Ray McGowan. Ray McGowan was the treasurer of the theater at that time, and was already harping about how do we get these expenses under control. And he was probably the first person that, at that point, Keith, Patty, and I had to convince Ray, we have to build a hotel. It's gonna work. We have to do a hotel. And so the four of us continued on that journey up until the point where we were ready to bring it, before the board. And that's where the final really big thank you is to Alan Cornell and to Heidi Waxlax and the Board of Trustees for believing in what we came up with, believing this concept. And here we are today, Star Suites, an extended stay resort for not just our performers from all over the country, but for the entire community. So thank you for being here with us this evening.
I want to thank you all and welcome you. You don't know how happy I am to see all of you supporting us. I am privileged and I'm proud to be the president of this board, because the board is a group of very sophisticated, very nice people and very generous people. And so the board also listens, they do their diligent work, and they gave us the agreement that we can go ahead with the project. And that was a big project, as you can see, and that helped us to get the burden of our staff, who had to manage and maintain 6 different locations in this town for rental places. So now we have our own Star Suites. And from the beginning of the project, actually, it took less than 2 years to be standing here, because the green light for the project was given on the 10th of March, 2017. And here we are on the 4th of March, 2019. It's less than 2 years, all of this. And of course, we had some excellent help. John Moses, our managing director, and Ray McGowan, and of course, the man, Don Proctor. Where are you? In the back somewhere. Don Proctor and his crew, and Keith Kite and his crew. So we had all the help we could get. We have a board of 35 people. And this board donated $8.5 million. And then we had $300,000 from former board members. So think about that we raised $8.8 million from current board members and former board members. This is, dedication. And to say it simply, awesome people, to get this. And I want to thank you all for believing in us and trusting us that we would do the right thing that assured the future of our theater. Big hug to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. I'm Ray McGowan. They called me project manager, but really he's standing there, Keith Kite. I'm a new octogenarian, so I brought notes. I didn't want to forget anybody. I probably will. But it's a pleasure for me to participate in today's ceremony and to have been part of the effort to build this hotel, not only for our actors, but for the general public here. Our effort, as John said, began 5 years ago. So it's a real dream to see this all come to fruition. There are many people to thank that worked on this project. And so I apologize in advance because I know I'm going to omit someone that I shouldn't. But first I'd like to thank the county, the city, and the airport authority for their cooperation and help in getting this thing off the ground, and specifically Jason Brown, our county administrator, and his staff, Jim O'Connor, our city manager, who unfortunately is going to be retiring pretty soon, do better things, and Eric Menger, who is the director of the Vero Regional Airport. Also want to give thanks to Kevin Barry. He was our legal counsel. He works for, or is a partner, I guess, with Rossway Swan, whom the theater uses as our legal attorneys. And he was with us all the way. I'd like to thank Jim Vedder from Kimley Horn, who provided upfront support in our feasibility study for the hotel, our site design, our permitting process. And the beautiful hotel you see here today was designed by an architectural firm called LLW out of Memphis, Tennessee, who are friends of Keith Kite, have worked for Keith Kite, and specialize in designing hotels in hospitality area. I think this hotel is very unique. If you look at it, we tried to mimic our theater. If you look at the exterior, our theater has a lot of stainless steel, and the colors that we selected try to mimic that. We have what we call storefront windows to provide a lot of light into the theater. And I think we accomplished, through the help of LLW, and specifically the chief architect for this job, who is with us today, Del Livingston. And so this is his imagination at work. I don't know where he is. There he is. And finally, and obviously not least, our thanks go to Proctor Construction, whose engineering and construction management expertise guided us through the peaks and valleys of a project of this scope. Obviously, our thanks go to Don Proctor, the president of Proctor Construction. Rick McDonald, is Rick here? He was our project executive. And our on-site construction management team of Bruce Bramble, Chad Westerberg, and David Hauer. I see Dave. You guys clean up pretty good. They kept their cool over the past several months despite my many questions and site visits. So I'm glad they're probably happy to see me leave. And then, of course, the most important, I want to thank, on behalf of Steelers, Keith Kite of Kite Properties. As you've heard, he joined our effort from the very beginning, over 5 years ago. He helped us find this site and negotiate the purchase of this site with the Los Angeles Dodgers. We tried to get them, right, Keith, to donate it to us because they left Vero Beach in the lurch. But they didn't see fit to do that, unfortunately. His contacts with the whole hotel industry were myriad, and we were able to take advantage of all of them. Our partnership with Kite Properties will not end here, because they will be managing this hotel for us. We have signed a long-term contract with Keith and Kite Properties to manage this hotel, because quite frankly, we don't know how to manage a hotel. Keith, my sincerest gratitude to you. I can't express it any better than that. And just let me end by thanking those who contributed financially to making Star Suites a reality. Their names are on the recognition board inside the lobby of the hotel. And you'll recognize most of them because their philanthropy has helped make Vero Beach and Indian River County one of the most desirable places to live in the state of Florida. So thank you very much.
So I'm the wrap-up guy. I was told it's not the Oscars, so we'll be done in just a second. But I do want to make sure I thank, and like Ray, I'll probably miss a few, but I've got to thank the Riverside patrons and certainly this board for supporting this vision. The Star Suites supporters themselves, John Moses, Alan Cornell, Heidi Waxlack, and certainly, obviously, a big hand back to Ray McGowan for having this vision to allow us to bring this beautiful hotel to fruition. Secondly, thank you to the team, LLW Architects, Del Livingston, Jim Bitter, Kimley Horn, Mark Sartain, our landscape architect, this beautiful award-winning landscape, Diane D'Angelo, and Diane, are you here somewhere? If you are, okay, good. She's our designer, so all the beautiful interior designs you see, we collaborated on several projects, and it's just an outstanding job once again. Thank you. I was told that well over 50,000 parts go into opening a hotel when the time we dig a shovel in the ground to what you see today. So, job well done. And lastly, I'd like to say a big thank you to my wife, Kay Kite. The vision I gave her and another big idea. She gets tired of my big ideas after 20 years, but we've done a lot of them together. And certainly my partner, Colin Kite, my son, and of course my entire hotel team, Charlie Howe, Amy Selby, Missy Davis, and your rest of your support team. Thank you. So the future of the hotel. We're going to operate as an extended stay hotel. Our main mission, of course, will be meeting Riverside Theater's housing needs. With that said, we will actually be a net positive cash flow back to the theater. So your support, once again, has now turned into a net positive that will be donated back to Riverside Theater and its continued growth each year. So we're very excited about that. And Riverside's vision for this hotel, it will include multiple engagements with the community and the education system and the cultural systems that we have in this county, of which certainly Riverside Theater is one of the strong supporting foundations of. Some of the examples will include high school students interacting with Broadway caliber actors, music directors able to come in and talk to high school teams, other cultural amenities around the area. And we see the property basically not only as a hotel, but as an exciting, engaged addition to the arts and community at large for what you have been able to allow us to deliver. So thank you very much. We look forward to you enjoying the hotel. There's a great tour with food and hors d'oeuvres right through the lobby and out into the atrium courtyard. And if you have any questions during the tour, be happy to answer them as well. So thank you.